Welcome back to more Real Talk with Big John. It's been a little while since we've had a podcast, since I've had a podcast, I should say, with just myself in it. And it's been even a little while now since we've had it unveiled, but there's been a lot going on and everybody's been busy, not just slacking off. So I appreciate your grace and waiting. In the meantime, I want to discuss a topic that is near and dear to my heart, that is more personal, that is extremely relevant by any sense of meaning, and one that doesn't get an awful lot of talk outside of convenient church disciplines. So that is, let's look at Proverb 22. Proverb 22, we'll start in 1, and we're going to go to one of the most famous verses in the scripture. A good name is to be desired more than great wealth. Favor is better than silver and gold. The rich and the poor have a common bond. The Lord is the maker of them all. The prudent sees the evil and hides himself, but the naive go on and are punished for it. The reward of humility and the fear of the Lord are riches, honor, and life. Thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. He who guards himself will be far from them. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and even when he is old, he'll not depart from it. So I'm going to stop there. There's so much wisdom in Proverbs 22. The first take of this, I went through and read them all, and I wound up misquoting some of them, and I got to thinking about highlighting this chapter about training up a child in the way that he should go. And it's not lost on me that a great deal of people train their children up correctly, and they fall into the pit of uh, an unchristian lifestyle. And then it's not lost on me that a lot of people aren't raised uh, properly, and Christ redeems them, and they wind up starting out an entirely new path of godly living and fellowship with God. That is a new path for their entire family. I'm not lost that those exceptions to this rule exist, but I think that there's a lot to be said about the. I don't want to say it in a way that it gets used all the time, but I'm going to use the word legacy here because I think it's a good use of the word, though I believe the word has been hijacked for nefarious gain over the last couple of years, especially inside of prosperity gospel circles or any kind of prosperity circles, period. But leaving your children an inheritance of righteousness is no small thing. Don't misunderstand me. I don't believe that you can be saved enough that your children will be saved because of your relationship with Jesus. However, the concept of a righteous father having children that grow up to be righteous is not outside of what is considered normal in Christianity or even Old Testament Judaism. One of the things that I urge anybody to be is real at home, at church, at work. One of the things that I can be accused of is being overly crude at times and overly blunt and sometimes even downright heartless. But one thing I'm not accused of is being insincere anywhere. I try to be the same person on my couch with just my wife and children in the room as I am on a church pew or at work, and whether it's on a job site or in a cubicle. I try not to be any different anywhere. I try to always let Christ be at the center of my conversation. Obviously, I'm a man, so I fail at that at times, but my objective is that the reputation that I have as a man is one that even among the lost is that at least he knows Jesus. It would be one of the greatest privileges of a lifetime for the memory that I've left on this earth to be one where the people that I know that aren't even Christian would say the only thing that would cause me to want to believe in God is that He changed John, because the people that know me prior to salvation would know that there was a big change in the way that I behave. In any case, that's kind of outside of the scope of this topic when we're talking about children. Uh, Here recently, there was a there was a death in my family, and it it often looks like the man wasn't inside of my immediate family, but family can be difficult to explain. In a lot of ways, I've been closer to what is commonly referred to as extended family than I have some of my immediate family. My cousin and I are closer than my brother and I, both in age and in relationship. We've spent more time together uh, than my brother and I have in our entire life, and he and I have always maintained this I would call it a common friendship slash family relationship. We would have been friends whether we was family or not. You know, it just happened to be that we were family. And his older brother passed away, and obviously that makes him my cousin as well. And whenever it was asked of me if I would speak at his memorial service, of course I'd be honored to speak at his memorial service. And I couldn't help but think about the direction that I wanted to take. How do you sum up your relationship with somebody into a few minutes behind a pulpit? How do you do honor to a man's family and his own memory in just a few minutes? Have you ever considered the task that your pastor has or your preacher has to sum up everything that you have to say about this person and what they may mean to you, or what they've meant to your family, or to the Lord, and do all that and still maintain a service that's centered on Christ? Because as a Christian, after all, everything about our life is centered on Christ. So uh, as I sit down to think about how to appropriate this sermon, this small little section of words crammed together, I couldn't help but think about how instrumental, that's a funny word to use in this statement, how instrumental the man was in teaching me the foundational principles of music. Uh, for sake of context, if those that are listening to this don't know me outside of this podcast, uh, I play guitar and a little bit of banjo and a little bit of other instruments, but primarily guitar, six string. If I can, just stay on that. I don't both acoustic and electric the same. Of course, I wasn't born knowing how to play anything, so somebody has to teach me. And this man took time out of his day to teach his brother. And like I said before, his brother and I are really, really close. And in him teaching his brother, he's teaching me, and he knows he's teaching me. And we would all get together, and we would he would teach us how to play certain songs and work through it, and basic fundamentals. You never leave fundamentals. You only grow on fundamentals. As we've said on this podcast piles of times, everybody that's been on it, we never outrun the gospel. We never leave the gospel behind. We just build on the foundational principles of it. And uh, there was no sign whatsoever that I was going to be able to adhere to any of the teachings of guitar that he taught me. But by God's grace and through for His glory, it was able to stick. And some might say, well, that's kind of a silly thing to bring up at a man's funeral. But I couldn't help but think about how many times as a minister I've been allowed to preach the gospel at a different church only because they knew who I was first. And the only reason they knew who I was first is because they asked my band to come play music in their church. And because we were in their church playing music, and then there was a relationship formed out of this need of musicians and praise and worship leaders or whatever, there was an opportunity to talk to the leadership of the church, and the leadership of the church could hear what our hearts was towards ministry and say, hey, won't you come speak at our church one time? So I was allowed to go speak the gospel and preach the gospel to people that I would never be allowed to, based off of entryway through music. And that was largely in part due to the fact that one man spent some time teaching me how to play guitar. And I'm not going to say that he was the only person who taught me something on the guitar. I've built on he taught me basic fundamentals. Again, you don't ever leave those behind. You build on them. And then his brother taught me more stuff as he was taught more intimately by his brother. And then along the way, God put more people in my life. The man who led me to the Lord later on would teach me more advanced guitar playing techniques. And then there would be other people that God would put in my path past those times that would teach me even more advanced guitar playing techniques. So I'm a product of charity. I'm the product of people taking time out of their day to teach me something, And what I've adhered to beyond just the trying to learn as much as I can from each one of these individuals is that, hey, if somebody took time to teach me how to do this, I need to take the time that's necessary to teach someone else. So, along the way, if anybody has ever reached out to me at one of these churches and said, hey, I would like to be able to play guitar, and there's a chance I can help them learn how to play guitar, I say, sure. When do you want to learn? They'll say, well, I need to get some money together. That's no, you don't, because nobody's charged me a dime to teach me how to play guitar, and I can't see ever charging someone to teach something that someone taught me for free. And then it occurred to me, I've been brought up as a child, taught something that stuck. And I've been able to carry that with me, and I've been able to repeat that process to other people. So, though this man may have passed away that taught me these things, the lessons that he taught me are being taught to other people the exact same way he taught them to me. So, his legacy, again, I don't like that word, but in this case it works, lives on in these teachings, and there's a chance he'll affect an entire generation of worship leaders that he never meets. And that's just something that I can see in my lifetime. So, with a heavy heart, but one that's full of grace and praise and thankfulness for God and allowing me to see this, I want to give you this encouragement today. The time you spend on those that you're teaching something is not in vain. I need to hear that at times as a Sunday school teacher, as a preacher, as a music teacher, as a father, as a husband, as somebody who spends a great deal of my time trying to put facts out there for other people to learn and be better by. I need to hear at times that this is not in vain, especially if it's done in the Lord. Not only will the people that you're pouring into remember it, but the Lord keeps a record of these things. Doing them for the Lord is wise. He who wins souls is wise. I encourage you today, the things that you know how to do. Maybe it's not music. Maybe you're into finances, and you're just somebody sat down and taught you how to organize your money so that you could be more efficient with it, or maybe somebody taught you how to use the stock market and money markets to your advantage. Teach somebody how to do that. Maybe you're a mechanic. You worked like I did for years on everything from automated automated screw machines, if you know what that is, to CNC machines, to power plant parts, pumps, and teach somebody. I don't know. Maybe you're a pastor. Maybe you're a preacher. And some young person comes up to you, some young man comes up to you, pastor, and says, I believe God's called me to preach, and I want nothing more than to be a herald of the gospel my entire life. Teach him how to understand Scripture, using Scripture. Teach him to pray. Let the other things be what they are. But, man, if you're honest with yourself, you know that you didn't get where you are based on your own good looks or merit, that you too, like me, are a product of grace, that you're a product of charity. Everybody has had somebody carry them part of the way. Let's take the things that they've given us and let's hand it down to another group below us and carry them up the mountain a little bit further than we went and propel them further than we can go and watch God use them and be happy for them. It's been said before that only your dad is the only man who ever wants you to succeed him and do better than him. And let's be more like that. Let's hope that the people that I hope that the people that I'm teaching music take it far further than I ever took it. That God uses them to do far more than I've ever been allowed to do for God. Not to diminish what God's done for me. I don't want to diminish that. I don't want to make light of that. But rather, I want to give God more than what I can give him now, because he's worth it. And if I can do that by multiplying what he's given me, I think that's being a good steward of it, right? We could get into that another time, but for the time's sake, and I don't want it to be any longer than what it is, I want to thank you for listening or watching or however you're consuming this media. I want to thank you for listening to an old country boy. Try to dissect scripture as best as I can. Take the things that God has given you, invest them in people, and watch this talent multiply so that when he returns, he'll say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." God's been good to me. That's going to be my testimony all my life. God's been good to me. And I'm not hoarding up anything that he give me. Everything that God give me, I'm going to try my best to give out to as many people as I can. That God might be glorified more in it. Thank you again for sticking around. It's been Real Talk, and I'm Big John.